Hey everybody, thanks for tuning back into OTRAM's YouTube channel. Today we've got a 2015 Toyota Sienna minivan that we're going to do front pads and rotors on. So the first thing we're going to do is take the actual caliper off. We're going to need a 14 millimeter socket and ratchet for that. And it's just these two caliper bolts. And I am dumb. I'm going to leave this lower one in until I break the top one loose so that the caliper doesn't spin like that. And then we can wiggle the caliper off. And then I'm going to take a caliper hanger and hang the caliper up here off the brake line bracket because you don't want the weight of the caliper hanging on the line. Okay, so now that we've got the caliper off, we can take these two caliper stand bolts off. And these are a 17 millimeter socket. And now that we've got the caliper stand off, we can pop these springs out. And we can slide our brake pads out. And then you'll see there's a bunch of stainless shims. We're going to pop those out, but take a picture of which way they go before you pop them out. That way you know which way they go back because they're not always identical. I'm going to go put these in the ultrasonic to clean them up. And then you're going to want to take the caliper pins out and they just pop out. Like that. Clean down inside the bore and clean up the pin. I'm going to leave those in for a minute because I'm going to sandblast the pad grooves to get all the rust and corrosion out of there before I do the pins. And then we can come over here to our rotor. And sometimes the other side just fell off. This side doesn't want to, so there's some 8 millimeter threaded holes. So we can just put some bolts in there. And then you can just tighten up those bolts and it'll pop the rotor free. And then you'll want to take a wire brush and clean up this surface. We've got scrubby pads on an impact to make quick work of it. You just want to make sure there's no rust or dirt or anything that could cause the rotor to sit crooked when you put it back on, because that'll make pulsing in your brakes. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the caliper stand and I'll bring you guys back for reassembly. Okay, so we've got our brackets out of the parts washer and I've sandblasted all the slots where the slides ride. So I'm going to take some disc brake grease and I'm just going to put a light coating in each of those slots just to keep any corrosion from coming back and to seal it. And you want to be careful when you're doing this that you don't glop a lot on the inside because when you go to put this back on, you'll end up smearing it on your fresh, clean rotor and kind of defeating the purpose of new brakes. So we've got those all greased, and then we can take and start putting our little stainless shims back in. And these didn't come new with the kit, so I ran them through the ultrasonic just to, clean the grime off of them. And they just snap down in the same way they came out. And then we can go ahead and take the pins out. Excuse me. And you'll need to pay attention. You'll see this one's got like a rubber band on it. And the other one doesn't. So you just need to pay attention to which way those came from. And then I'm gonna shoot just a little brake clean down in the bores. And you can use, any kind of bristle brush. I've got one that goes on my screw gun. But you just wanna, get the old grime out of the bores. Rinse that out real quick. Set that upside down for a minute so it can drain. And then I'm just going to take some brake clean on a rag and clean the grease off these pins. And these are clean. A lot of times when you take these out, they'll be really corroded and pitted with rust. If they're really rough, it'd probably be good to replace them, or you can even get like a reman caliper stand and just replace the whole shebang, because these need to slide freely. And then we're going to take some more of our caliper grease and lightly coat these pins. Slide them back in. There we go. The little rubber bumper got stuck. And then you just want to make sure that these, move in and out freely, and that you've got the boots snapped on properly. And then, while we're over here at the bench, we'll go ahead and put our shoes together. So I got my shoes, I've got them matched together. They get these spring clips that go on the top of each one. And they just snap on. If I can get my brain to work. Come on. There we go. And they just snap on there like that. And then we're going to take our new shims and some more disc brake grease. And we're just going to coat the side of the shim that comes in contact with the brake pad. We're just going to put a light coating on there and then snap it onto the brake pad. And then same thing for the other one. And you can tell by my painting skills that I did not do well in art class. I'll stick that one back on there. And now we're ready to start putting things back together on the van. So let me move the tripod over and we'll be right back. Okay, so now we're ready to go back together. I've got my new rotor. We're gonna stick that on there. And I'm just gonna put one lug nut on there loosely to hold it in place. And I wiped it down both sides with brake clean off camera. We can take our caliper bracket and our caliper bracket bolts, and I've put some blue Loctite on my bolts. We'll put those in. And then these get torqued to 77 foot-pounds. Okay. And now we can take and install our brake pads. And those actually cooperated nicely. A lot of times they want to be fiddly trying to put them in there. Then we can take our caliper and drop our light again. But we need to retract the pistons. I've got one of these Lyle piston retractors. You can use C-clamps, whatever you've got handy. You just want to make sure they push back evenly. And you want to check the master before you do this to make sure that there is room so that when you push these pistons back in, you don't overflow your master cylinder. Set that up there for just a second. And then we can take the anti-rattle clips and stick them in the pad holes. And you want to have your caliper already pushed back before you stick these in, because these are going to want to push the calipers back out of the grooves. So you want to have this guy ready to drop on there and slide in. And then I'm going to put another dab of blue Loctite on the caliper bolts. And then these bolts get torqued to 20 foot-pounds. The problem you're going to run into is the pins are going to want to spin. So you're going to need a 17 on the opposite side to hold them. A lot of times, a standard 17 wrench is too fat. So you end up needing one of these like super thin wrenches, or sometimes they call them tappet wrenches or low torque wrenches. You need that to hold the pin. You could do it with pliers too in a pinch. There we go, those guys are torqued. And then we just want to give it a spin to make sure nothing's dragging. And we're all good. And at the beginning of this, I said this was a 2015 Sienna minivan. I was wrong, it's a 2011. So yeah, that's doing front pads and rotors on a 2011 Toyota Sienna minivan. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.